technical stuff, when Mark played football a lot, you know, did you notice, for example, that he was quite talented? And
Oh, he was very good. Yes, yeah. He had a real apt for it. And as I say, when he eventually did become quite good, when in his later years with junior section, we did win the five-a-side tournament, which then went on. We used to have tournaments right throughout the year, like football, swimming, Bible studies, all that, and each company sent people in for it, and all the points were totted up to the year end, and at the year end, the company with the most points got to keep the company colours, got to keep the battalion colours, sorry, which was the Union flag and the Boys Brigade flag, and we did win them that year. We did we won the five-a-side. We did win the company colours, which John Rutherford and myself carried at the front of all parades, and we kept them for a year. That was that was all helped to all the lads pushed in and did the bit. So
it seems to me. How do you feel about Mark getting married and having a baby?
I'm very pleased for them, and I don't. What do they call this young lady?
Severine.
Severine. Crikey. Well, I hope they have a very happy marriage, a very long marriage, and well, it'll be God bless to them both. So yes, I think he'll make a good husband. He'll make a good father. Yeah, as long as he can remember his football skills.
Is there anything you'd like to say to him?
I think we've gone over everything. Just the best of luck and every happiness in the world.
Brilliant. There we are. Mark, but it seems that whenever Mark was around and the people that he kind of like hung out with, that group always kind of like went on to do quite well.
Yes,
whatever
yeah,
it is
yeah, that's true. Yeah, he was a born leader for the Boys Brigade. He did make sort of section leader when he got to the age, and he had a section under him. Yeah, that was just before he went up into company section, and after that I did lose touch a bit. Just put my nose in and have a look at them now and again. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right then. I recorded all that.
No. We. I think really girls was didn't come to the equation at that age, really. Unless we had a party with the Brownies, which we did a couple of years, I think, didn't we? We had a joint Christmas party with the Brownies. That was.
Did we used to go swimming as well? That isn't that age group, is it?
No, that was more Malcolm's age. We did have a swimming group go on a Monday night when we took the Boys Brigade and the Brownie leaders took the Brownies, which was some fun. Yeah. There was. Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so. So do you want to tell us who you are and what your relation is to Mark? Where do you come into?
Right, so I'm Chris Hunter. I was an officer with the Boys Brigade, and I first met Mark when he was about 7 years old, when he joined the 18th Company Hull Boys Brigade.
Righty-ho. So what did he have? What entailed being in the Boys Brigade then? What would Mark have had to do?
It will come along to parade nights on a Friday night, and then Sunday school on a Sunday. Yes, and as I say, I remember him coming as a little quiet boy.
So he's a quiet lad then. So when he started, how long did it take him to settle in and start making?
Oh, it was only a few weeks, and he soon teamed up with his friend. I think his still friend, JJ Burrell. He was best friends with him right through his Boys Brigade life, from junior section till he went up into company section.
So we've got quite a lot of old footage of Mark, very old. I mean, we're talking cine film. I'm not sure if it was when he was in the Boys Brigade, but he was wearing a red top. Is that part of the Boys Brigade?
No, it was a blue top.
Right. Okay.
And funny shaped hat. We used to call him like a chip bag. But he could. Oh, where's mine? Oh, it's behind that. I'll have to sit back. You'd probably remember me better when I wear my hat. And that was our officer's hat.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, did Mark have a lot of friends in the Boys Brigade? Is there any incidents as well that you know, might stick out that might? You know...
No. I can remember his first love. That was football, and I think some of his football abilities rubbed off on the other team members, because one year we won the five-a-side tournament, which we were presented with a trophy, which was proudly on show next Sunday at church parade, which I'm sure he had a big input into that.
Okay.
Yeah. It was always sporty and took part in everything, the camps, walks, anything we did. He was always took a big part in it.
Trying to dig up the dirt on Mark, as to say, you know, apparently that, you know, there's more stories to tell about me than there is about Mark, which annoys me a little bit, you know. But is there absolutely anything that you can think of that, you know, that Mark would think, oh no?
Not really. No, he never got up to anything that would. I don't think it would embarrass him in later years, as now. Yeah. No, I can't recall anything at all.
Friday night, you know.
Yeah.
When they go play football and bowling and all the other things that they can do. So it's a shame.
But we always got a good attendance. You know, always a good attendance, and a fair attendance on a Sunday after, you know, with the church part of it, and everybody turned out in uniform for church parade.
Do you think Mark really kind of like enjoyed that kind of side of it?
I'm sure he did, because I mean, I have fond memories of Boys Brigade, and anyone I talk to, everyone, all the lads, I still see some of the lads about, and they always have happy memories about it. And I think the happiest memories of when we went to camp, both junior section with the in dormitories, under, you know, and then company section when we went under canvas. So, and that sticks out more in their memories than anything else. And that was a good time together, you know, a really good fellowship. Yeah.
It's nice to think it's made such a big impact on so many lives.
Yeah.
Well, I know certainly from my side of it, I went on to say that Mark was accident prone.
Well, I think the casualty department at Hull Royal Infirmary got to know Mark extremely well in his early years and in his teens, because there were a number of occasions when he broke his arm. In fact, if you look at his arm now, it is slightly bent because of the breaks he suffered. And there was one occasion, of course, when we moved here in 1987, where he went across to the wood opposite the house with a friend of his and started climbing trees, which was most unlike Mark, because he never went climbing trees, but he managed to fall out the tree and break his arm. That was the last occasion, but he broke it plenty of times when he was playing football.
Was there any... Okay, do you want to tell us a little bit about Mark when he was born, the circumstances of his birth and things like that?
It's a good question. The thing that I was told that I forgot was that he was about to be born, and when I went to the Woodgates maternity home and dropped Lynn off, I was told that nothing would happen that night and I should come back the following day. So, quite naturally, as any father would do, I went home and went to bed and was woken up at something like 3 o'clock in the morning by Lynn saying, "Where were you, where you, where you, he's been born, he's been born." And I knew nothing about it because I was fast asleep at the time. She never really ever forgave me for that.
So did he arrive on Devon? How how do you feel about the position Mark's in now with his job, and with particular emphasis to Matisse and Severine? What do you think of Severine? And,
I think Severine is a lovely girl, a lovely partner for Mark, and she's the practical one, and Mark is the intellectual thinker. I think his domestic life has taught him a few things, and certainly he's a good father to Matisse, and he's got Matisse interests always at the back of his mind. Obviously, you know, it would be nice if we were a bit closer, but Mark and Severine both have their careers in Belgium, and we wish them every success with them. And all we say is, please can we see Matisse from time to time and maybe take him on a few holidays?
are you happy that Mark's getting married now?
Delighted. Yeah, I wish them every happiness, and I hope, Mark, that you have a very happy wedding day, and that everything goes according to plan, and that you get from life everything you want.
Brilliant. Mark, good at meeting deadlines.
Well, he can be a little bit lax when it comes to doing things like that, because there was one occasion when he had his dissertation to write, and unfortunately there was a problem with the computer, and he was panic stricken because he thought he'd lost all his work, but somehow by using a computer expert we were able to retrieve his dissertation, and so he was able to get it in on time. But it was touch and go, and you know, that's partly because Mark didn't really work to the schedule he should have done, and he did actually leave things to the last minute.
Fantastic. So how did...
Well, it seems such a long time ago now, and I'm sure he must have been over the legal limit, because I can't imagine Mark drinking before he was entitled to. But I seem to remember that he got home and he drunk far too much, and he had to sit near the bed all night with a bucket in front of him, and I won't embarrass him by saying that he was sick so many times that he probably filled the bucket, but I think it taught him something about alcohol. Oh, well, yeah, there was a famous occasion when we told Mark, and I'd been telling him for weeks, that we were going down to London on holiday with the caravan on the back, and we picked my mother up and we headed off, he thought, to London, and I said to him, oh Mark, I've just got to call in at somewhere in Hull to collect the new gas bottle. The gas bottle's empty. And we headed into Hull along Headon Road, and of course the plan really was we were going on a holiday to Lemgo in Germany, and we were heading into Hull to catch the ferry. But Mark was so gullible, and he just didn't realise what was happening, and we were pulled onto the dock, and he still didn't realise where we were going. He thought we were going to collect a gas bottle, and it was Tim who actually said in the end, we're going to Lemgo, we're catching the ferry, aren't we? And we all laughed, and Mark still didn't realise that in fact that's where we were going to catch the ferry. He'd just been completely taken in, and I just cannot believe to this day how he could have been taken in by such a story.
So that particular incident, would you mind telling us what?
Well, I say he'd been sick, and of course he didn't want me to know anything about it, because his mum who sat beside him while he was being ill, as we all do, of course, we all have to go through this. But Mark was very concerned that I shouldn't know anything about it. But in fact, Lynn actually did tell me, and my reaction was not anger, but I actually went up the stairs into his bedroom, shook him by the hand, and I said, welcome to the real world, welcome to the adult world, Mark. You've had your first hangover.
Fantastic. Football.
Oh, well, from when we used to live at Champlan's Avenue, and he was old enough to want to play football, because he's always been keen on football, and he belonged to a Sunday league team called St Vincent's, and he was very keen to play for them, and he had talent as well. So every Sunday we used to go to home matches on a sports field behind Marist College, or to away matches in places like Heddon. So I was always running him around to play football and standing there on the touchline, sort of waving my arms and shouting, "Come on, Mark." And, you know, he really enjoyed it. In fact, he still enjoys it to this day.
What was?
I can't remember that one.
That's fine. Don't worry about that. So I hear that Mark has a history with French girls.
Well, yes. There was a famous occasion when you know, he was quite young at the time, and we had some friends in Dieppe, and he got to know a girl called Laurence very well. You know, obviously being a discreet kind of person, I wouldn't go into the details of this relationship, but he was very keen on her at the time. She was a pretty little girl, and, you know, we hoped for an entente cordiale, you know, because we thought that he obviously has an attraction to the female of France.
Yeah. So you don't find a coincidence then?
Well, obviously there must be something in the Lyman blood that attracts him to French girls. But, you know, I don't know what that magic ingredient is, but good taste, I think. Good taste.
So do you think Mark?
And I opened a letter about a macro competition I'd entered, and I'd won a holiday for two people to the Super Bowl in California. And Mark's always been keen on sport, and since he was the eldest, I decided to take him. And I mean, the Super Bowl was a great occasion, but the place that we actually stayed at in Los Angeles wasn't very safe, because the courier told us that not to leave the hotel on foot after dark, and you could see why, because when we walked around during the day, there were some very strange people around, including one guy who came up to Mark with his underpants on top of his head and said, "Are you frightened of me, boy?" And I think Mark was a bit frightened, to be honest, and you can understand why, because there were some strange characters hanging around in Los Angeles, and certainly it's not a place I would recommend anyone to go to for a holiday.
Was much of a risk taker?
He was very cautious as a young child. There was a famous occasion when we used to go into Hull quite a lot, and there was a department store which people know about called Hammond's. And on the top floor near the cafe there was one of these children's rides, a space rocket, and Mark was quite keen to go and sit in the space rocket as long as it didn't move, because as soon as he sat in it, he looked at me anxiously and said, "Please, Daddy, don't put a penny in."
Fantastic. Mum sold his Star Wars figures.
He was devastated. Mark is like Peter Pan. He never really wanted to grow up. I mean, for Father Christmas, Mark never really ever let on that he stopped believing in Father Christmas. Clearly at some point he must have stopped believing in them, but we never found out who had told him. But he always maintained the pretense that there was a Father Christmas. And at Christmas time, you could always ensure Mark was one who kept the secret well, because Mark loves Christmas. He loves to come back to England to celebrate Christmas. It's part of the ritual of Christmas that Mark enjoys so much.
So, getting towards the end now, just thought of a question now. How did Mark react? Well, hang on, let me rephrase the question.
Well, yes, I mean, he decided that he wanted to build a pond in the back garden, and it was fraught with problems, because he started digging it and then came across a concrete base, so that meant he had to dig the pond even bigger than he'd planned, and it was a mammoth undertaking. But of course, soon after that, he left home and left us to look after the fish that he'd put in it.
Fantastic. You're allowed to kind of expand on that a bit more, maybe. Fantastic. You're allowed to kind of expand on that a bit more, maybe.
Well, I mean, the concrete base was such that, you know, he had to start digging to make it deep enough, find a bit where there wasn't any concrete and dig a bigger hole in it. And of course, it cost a lot of money because there had to be pond liners and paving stones around the outside, and of course, who footed the bill for that? Mum and Dad footed the bill for that. And Mark, as soon as he finished this project, decided he was going to leave home and go off to Belgium. So we'd stocked it with fish, and of course we were left with the problem of feeding his fish for him. But he still feeds them. When he comes home, he feeds them. He does occasionally throw some fish food in. He didn't like it one bit. He used to scream and shout, but we had to sort of try and teach him that there was a time for going to bed. So, and he used to stand behind the door of his bedroom and hammer on the door, and eventually he would get so tired he'd fall asleep sitting behind the door, and we were sat at the bottom of the stairs listening to all this because we were determined not to give in, because if he thought he could go to bed any time he wanted, our lives would have been hell. So we decided we would try and test him to the limit, and of course he eventually did go to sleep, but he didn't like going to bed.
Did he arrive on time?
Slightly before time, because I was expecting him to be born something like 9 or 10 o'clock that morning. He was actually born in the early hours when I was fast asleep.
Did Mark welcome the arrival of Tim?
Well, he'd had something like 3 years to be the centre of everyone's attention, to have things all his own way, and unfortunately he didn't take the arrival of Tim as well as we might have expected, because we were living at Chandler's Avenue in Hull at the time, and to show that he was still king of the pile, he decided to have a wee in the corner of the hall. I think there's a little bit of attention seeking. I don't think he does that sort of thing anymore, though.
You think?
Well, I wasn't surprised really. He's a good-looking lad, and he's getting on a bit. He doesn't want to be left on the shelf, so I'm very pleased for him. I hope he's found somebody who will look after him, and he'll look after them.
Is there anything you'd like to say to Mark?
Yes, Mark, I'd just like to wish you all the very best for the future, and I hope you've had a lovely day today and a special day to remember, and all the very best for your future happiness together.
Something about his football anyway, because he's mad on football, and I'm sure everyone knows that anyway. So I'll just kind of like say to you, and you just kind of like say, oh yeah, loved football or something like that, So. So, were you aware that Mark was into football?
Oh yeah, he just liked his football, did Mark? Yeah.
What team did he support?
Leeds United.
Hull
City.
Okay, so take from the beginning there. Were you aware that Mark is a big fan of football?
Oh yes, he liked his football, did Mark? Yeah, big Hull City fan.
Brilliant.
So yeah.
Would have been proud of him.
Oh, I'm sure he was. In fact, he was proud enough of him to make him head boy at the time, and that isn't a position that's achieved lightly. There's always a lot of strong competition, I should say, for that post, and Mark obviously fulfilled the requirements, and Mr. Roger would see that. I can't remember actually who was deputy head boy when Mark was head boy, but it's a very onerous task. You have to stand up at all the parents' meetings and speech night and Founders' Day and speak, and obviously that requires certain skills, which obviously the school thought Mark had.
Excellent.
Hi Mark, and hello to your new wife and family and guests. I expect you thought you'd seen the back of me once and for all. But no, I'm here to remind you about your glorious school days. But don't worry, I shan't be giving away any classroom secrets. But there is just one instance. No, we won't go there. Oh, and by the way, if you're not too busy tonight, do you think you could do that science homework I think you still owe me? God bless.
Okay, alright then, so day one.
And of course, it wasn't a bad achievement for Mark really to become the top dog in the school after having not been even invited on the first day to join a class.
Too much excess noise. Okay, so start again. Okay, so yeah, if you'd like to introduce yourselves and explain your relationship with Mark and how you know him.
Right, it's Dennis and Carolyn. Remember the first time we met Mark, in fact, the first time we met the family, we were camping with a great mass of Brits in Brittany, and this new family were coming over. Never met them, and it was getting towards dinner time, and the sun's beating down, and we had to leave messages on lampposts and trees to tell them where their camp pitch was. And just as we were leaving, in rolls this cavalier full of hot, sweaty people who were just having a little bit of a row because they got a little bit lost, but it happens in hot weather. And it was Martin and Lynn and Mark and Tim. Now, we'd never met them before, but they fitted in wonderfully, as if we'd known them all our lives, and Mark and Tim were the same. Tim was too small, but Mark fitted in with all the kids and just got up to all the kids' tricks, spraying water from the tap, covered in chocolate, bare feet, runny noses, even in the middle of summer, and it was just great. That's the first time we met him, and you've got a tale about the last time, haven't you?
The last time we met Mark and Tim was on a campsite in France at a place called Roquepertuis, camping by the Cers. And all the teenagers, as they were then, were out on inflatable boats on the river, when suddenly one of the boys screamed out, "There's an eel, or there's a snake or something," and they all had to jump into the inflatable boats and try and paddle to the shore. And one of them, might have been Mark, if not it was Dan, was sure that the snake had reared its head out of the water like the Loch Ness Monster and was chasing them back to the riverbank. That was my last memory. The other memory I have of all the families together is when we were in the first campsite at Brittany, was when we went to a beach called the Convoy Beach. And we called it the Convoy Beach because all families went in a convoy. And there must have been 5 families, 6 families.
7.
And we all got onto the beach, but what made it so British was everybody had a windbreak. And so all the families had the windbreak ups, all joined together, and we almost cut off the beach. While we camped behind because it was very, very windy, camped behind the windbreaks, and all the children got together and were making sandcastles and having a competition as to who could either dig the deepest hole or build the tallest sandcastle. So they're my 2 memories of when they were very little and when then they were all teenagers together on the campsites.
Fantastic. So what about, how do you feel about Mark and Severine getting married?
It's about time.
I think it's wonderful.
It was really good news when we found out.
Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
And I just wish them all the best. And I hope the day goes wonderfully well.
As I'm sure it will. All the people involved are wonderful people, so it'll be a really good day.
Yes, look forward to seeing everybody and seeing all the photographs and things afterwards.
Superb. Is there anything you'd like to say to Mark and Severine?
Good luck for the future, and look after each other, as I'm sure you will, and I'm sure you'll have a wonderful time together.
And that little one's fantastic. I mean, that's your life now, so make it a good one.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Fantastic. Have you got any memories of like Mark and Jay together doing anything specific?
Mark and Jay, the eternal fishermen, often went away with the rods and the reels and talk of fishing and maggots, asticot and hooks and tying things, and often came, in fact always came back without anything. They enjoyed themselves, they had some stories, but the fishermen, until the day of the big fish, I think it was in the Dordogne, they came back with this huge fish that they'd caught, fresh as a 3-day-old fish could be, but they caught it all right, and it's the only one I've ever seen them catch. Saw Jay catch one a few years later, but it's a long time to try to catch one fish.
That's great. So, moving swiftly on, what do you think about Mark and Severine getting married?
I think it's fantastic news. I think it's even better news about the baby as well. Congratulations, by the way.
Okay, that's really great. Is there anything you'd like to say to Mark and Severine?
Yeah, good luck. Hope the wedding goes well. Hiya.
Brilliant. Excellent. Did you ever remember... Okay, yeah, so Battle of the Boats. Do you want to tell us a little about that?
Battle of the Boats, I think we ended up calling Battle of Waterloo. I can't remember what lake it was on though. Was it by air? I can't remember what lake it was on. But I do remember that it usually ended up that Martin and Mark won. And I normally ended up crying because I didn't like the cold.
Do you ever remember, Mark, a lot of games? What kind of games you used to play?
Dungeons and Dragons for definite, and I remember Mark making up Lardman when we was playing that, and Top Trumps. And we used to have battles in our dinghies on the lakes and things when we was on the campsites.
Okay, did you want to emphasise on Dungeons and Dragons and Lardman a little bit? You know, what's that all about?
Dungeons and Dragons. It was a game that we used to play, and I never got to make up any of the rules. It was always Mark and JJ made up all the rules to Dungeons and Dragons, and it expanded from the story that came with the game. And they made up new characters, and we ended up with Lardman, who was a character in it, which made us all giggle for quite a while. And that went on for a full holiday nearly.
Was there a particular catchphrase attributed with Lardman?
I can't remember it. Can you remember it?
Don't call me lard.
That was it. Yeah. Don't call me lad. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So you mentioned previously the grasshopper story. Do you want to tell us a bit about it?
The grasshoppers. When we went to stay in France, we stayed at a house. I think it was something to do with Carolyn and Dennis. I think it was one of their parents' houses or something. And we stayed there for a couple of nights, and we caught a lot of grasshoppers one day. And I remember JJ and Mark definitely torturing several grasshoppers and pulling the legs off them, and upsetting me and Heather quite a lot.
That's brilliant. So, yeah, wrap it up. So how do you feel about Mark and Severine getting married?
I wish them all the best. I'm sure they'll be like really happy together.
How do you feel about Matisse?
It's amazing. He's like a gorgeous little boy. It's great. I'm really happy for him.
Is there anything you want to say to Mark?
Congratulations. Have a nice day.
Brilliant. There you go. Mark allegedly caught.
Oh yeah, he came back one day and he thought it was absolutely excellent because he caught this fish and he was proper boasting about it. But apparently it was dead and he'd just picked it out of the water and stuff, and he was going on about how good a fisherman and stuff he was.
Why do you think he went to those lengths to convince you that he caught this fish?
He probably wanted me to tell Gail how like heroic he was in catching the massive fish. Very manly of him.
How many fish do you think he ever caught on these little excursions that he used to have with Jay?
I don't think he ever caught any, did he? Did he catch like about... No, never. He never caught one. He was rubbish.
Oh, that's cool. Do you remember anything about this show that we did? Give us your name and what your relationship is to Mark and how you know him.
My name's Heather Stewart, and I used to go on holiday with Mark when to France with our parents and stuff.
When was that?
When we were younger, when from the age of about 2 or something.
So, would you say you had a special relationship with Mark, and for what reason?
He's a really cool guy, really funny. I'd say he probably wasn't over keen on us when we were little because we were girls and stuff.
So, on to specifics here. Do you want to tell us about the hair gel?
Mark loved hair gel to gel his hair. I just remember him being in the caravan, always like, because didn't you have a mirror above like near your bunks. And I just always remember him like stood like gelling his hair, which was kind of amusing.
Why do you think he did?
He was probably a bit vain. Maybe, I don't know, he just probably liked the style of it.
Do you think maybe it had something to do with Gail?
Did he fancy Gail? Yeah, he might fancy Gail a bit.
Alright then.
Trying to impress the ladies.
Okay, so kind of like as the years went on, this picture here that's relating to it.
Yeah, we always lost. We always lost. My dad had 2 girls, which blessed him. But yeah, I don't really remember.
Okay, no, that's fine. How would you describe your relationship with Mark, your friendship, as it were? Are you good friends? You know, do you keep in touch? You know, and what is it like when you see him again? You know?
It's just like I've never not seen him, but it's just like that with you. It's just like we've never not seen each other, although we don't keep in contact all the time. Yeah. I just always think of you as like those boys that we used to go on holiday with, and they used to collect. No, it was Jay that collected the stick insects, wasn't it? He used to collect stick insects, he liked the animals and stuff. And Mark used to try and burn holes in them with like magnifying glasses. Don't you remember?
No, I don't.
He used to get like tubs, and they used to like take pleasure out of catching wasps as well. Do you remember like the wasps in the jars? He used to like put jam in the jars and stuff, and I'm sure he got stung. Did he get one stuck in his arm once when he was like messing around with them? I'm sure he got a wasp stuck in his arm. He made a right song and dance about it. It must have been on that campsite where there was that beach, you know, with the raft. You used to have to swim out. And he always used to tell me there was piranhas in the water, so I dared swim back.
Okay, let's take it from that angle. Yeah. All right then. So this campsite in Bayer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us about that then? About the fish.
Yeah, well, there was this. We used to obviously like we're on the beach and stuff, and there was a raft like out in the water, like, and we used to just swim out, and you could sunbathe on it. And one day I was out there, and like I was going to swim back, and Mark told me there was piranhas in the water, and I dared go back. I was there for about. I think I was stuck on this raft for about an hour until my dad came out in the dinghy, and I went back in the dinghy because I dared go back and dared swim back. I was stuck out there for ages. I think he swam back saying that he was going to be really brave and swim back.
So on the same subject of fish, do you recall when Mark allegedly caught a fish with him and Jay and Dan?
Vaguely. But
No, you don't know anything about it.
no.
Okay. Okay, so this dead fish. Do you want to tell us about the fish that Mark allegedly caught?
Oh yeah, he came back one day and he thought it was absolutely excellent because he caught this fish and it was proper.
Between the ages of like 15 and 14 and 16.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about how Mark kind of led you astray?
One night, Mark had found a full bottle of port, and we drank the lot, and they found us because apparently somebody complained, but they found us like, I think we were hanging upside down or something on some swings, and they had to put us to bed. Mark was a bit ill, shall we say. He was a bit poorly. I think he had more than me, but yeah, he was very drunk. It was funny.
Do you want to tell us about red wine?
Do you mean our dad's dancing to it in the caravans? Yeah, they used to get absolutely plastered and listen to UB40 do a hula dance to red wine, which was always kind of amusing.
What kind of antics did you get to in the swimming pools and stuff? In any campsite?
Oh my god, I'd completely forgotten about that. Do you mean when we were doing the dirty dancing, the scene, and I always nearly squashed Mark? Yeah, that was kind of funny. It was,
Just expand on it, kind of like, say, oh, well, kind of like it happened this time, we had this crazy idea about it, we could reenact, or something like that, just
Okay.
So yeah, so when you were in last year, tell us more about the Dirty Dancing.
We were sunbathing one day and we thought it'd be a really good idea to reenact the whole Dirty Dancing in water type situation, and I nearly killed Mark quite a few times while he was trying to pick me up. He nearly drowned, which was probably really nice for him.
Tell us about the. Were you sad to see them move on then?
Not really, because I always felt that, you know, the lads grow up and they have to grow up and they have to develop and they have to move on to something else, and they moved on to company section, and when they got into company section I know John Rutherford took them, and he experienced what I'd experienced with them in junior section. He had a great time with them, and he used to take them on the bigger camps to Robin Hood's Bay a lot. Again, I went with them on a number of occasions there, and those camps were superb. And again, we expected them to do all sorts of things. We used to take them out on an evening walk along the old railway line from Robin Hood's Bay to Ravenscar, and it became a tradition that we set off just as it was getting dark. So the walk during the night, we used to call it a midnight hike. And one of the officers always used to position themselves somewhere along the old railway line and put on this horrible old man's mask, ghostly thing it was. And we used to jump out at them and shine a torch on our face and jump out at them halfway along this line. And so it was a tradition that they expected. And they were always said they wouldn't be frightened of it, they wouldn't be scared, but we always got them, and they were always terrified of their lives when whoever it was, whenever this officer jumped out at them and took them by surprise, because they always did take them by surprise. And and again, your Mark was one that was always waiting and always thought that he wouldn't be shocked and he wouldn't be taken by surprise, but he always was. And another thing we used to do with them on on those yes, it is. It's slow.
Just while that was going, that you know, when they had to find their own.
I was just going to say that. And another thing we used to do was we used to blindfold them, put them in a van, blindfold them, take them out onto the moors, and make them find their own way back. It was a good navigation thing for them, and they used to have a lot of fun trying to find their own way, the way back, and they always made it. We were always around if they're close enough, although they didn't know where we were, but we always used to keep an eye on them. But I think that was something else that they always used to enjoy doing as well. A lot of fun doing that.
Brilliant. Well, now that you know what's been happening, how do you feel about Mark getting married?
Well, I think that's lovely. It's always really nice to know what's happening to the ex-lads of Boys Brigade. Unfortunately, I've lost touch with a lot of them, but it's nice to find out what they're doing, and I know a lot of them are, have done well, and to know that Mark is getting married, I'd just like to wish him well, him and his future wife, and hope that they have a long and happy life together, and I'm sure that they will, and I hope that the day goes well and the future goes well for them both.
Brilliant. Would you like to say anything to Mark?
It's nice for this opportunity to wish you all the best, Mark, on your wedding day. I hope that the day goes well for you and your bride, and that you have a long and very happy life together.
Excellent. That's brilliant. For the benefit of people who don't know you, would you like to tell me who you are and what your relationship is?
Right. Ian Merriweather. I was captain of the Boys Brigade, 18th Hull Boys Brigade at Chanceave on Cottingham Road, Hull, when Marc was one of the lads in the Boys Brigade, first in junior section, then in the company section.
Excellent. Okay. So, how well did you know Marc?
When I took over as BB leader, junior section leader, Marc was in the first year of junior section, and there was a large group of lads that came together, and so I had Marc with me for 3 years, and then he moved into company section, and I did some work with him in company section as well, so I got to know him and that group particularly well, and they were a fantastic group of lads, all of them. They had a lot of fun together, and they really gelled together. They really worked well together as a group. Took part in all sorts of competitions. Loved being in competitions. Loved sport. Loved games. Loved going away for weekends and for on camping trips. And even just for day visits. I remember us taking him to Scarborough just for a day visit on the train, just to give him the experience. And whatever we did, they really enjoyed themselves. And Marc was very much part of that group. Very much probably one of the leaders of the group in the end when they went up in the company section. And the whole lot of them had a great time. We, with them, because they were so competitive, we put them in for all sorts of competitions, football, safety competitions, Bible competitions, huge number of competitions, and after we'd trained them up for a number of years, marching, that was another one. And they won the battalion colours. It was the first time Hull 18th Hull had ever done that, and so we were particularly pleased with them. And it was a nice feel for the lads and for the church which we belonged to, Cottingham Road Baptist, for them to do this. So they were a good group. We took them 1 year, I remember, to Horton in Ribblesdale for a week's camp, and I remember after about 3 days we'd been there, I did an inspection, a kit inspection with them all, and looked into their wash bags, opened up the wash bags, and there was your Marc and about 3 others whose wash bag hadn't been touched. The soap was still in its wrapper, flannels were dry, towels were dry, so they'd obviously not had a wash for about 3 or 4 days. So I've got a photograph somewhere of me scrubbing your Marc's neck and face, and 1 or 2 of the others, that because they'd not had a wash, and so that was quite humiliating for him, but I think after that they did decide that they'd better have a wash every day.
Fantastic. My goodness me. Such a broad range in there. Okay, so just out of curiosity, do you think, because of Marc's easygoing kind of personality, do you think that was a great attribute to, well, do you think it was a big factor in the group getting on so well?
I think they were all all the lads were very similar. They just loved being together. They loved working together. They were all very easygoing. Huge sense of humour, all of them. They were always winding each other up and setting each other up. And because they were like that, and because they just loved activities, when we took them away, for example, we took them on a number of years, we took them to Filey, to a hostel at Filey, where we had to do, it was self-catering, so we had them doing all their own cooking and everything. And we used to take them onto the beach and set up competitions for them on the beach, and walk them miles, and they loved it. And at the end of those weekends they used to come back tired out, smelly, and usually very, very wet, but all thoroughly enjoyed themselves, and just laughing and joking and teasing each other and singing and for the whole of the weekend. And they were a really smashing group of lads to take away. And as I say, your Mark was very much part of that group. And when they went up to the company section, a lot more was expected of them. And Mark was one of the group that you could rely on to lead and to pull the others along, because of his sense of humour, because he could do it, and he was a good footballer, I remember, and he loved football, and the whole group were always keen on taking part in in football competitions.
Fantastic. So this friendship of Mark and Jay's, did it start in Boys Brigade, or did it?
I don't know where that started, but they certainly knew each other very well, and that friendship developed over the time that they were in BB. I think because they had such common interests and they were very similar in nature, and they were the two of them. You couldn't put them down. You couldn't. They were always teasing everybody and winding everybody up, and but having a great time, and always done in a nice way, always with a good sense of humour. But they were a lively pair. Let's put it like that. They were very lively.
That's great. My God, you said quite a lot already, but let me think. We sad to see them move on, but yeah, okay. How do you feel about them getting married then?
Fantastic. I hope they both succeed very well. Buy a big house with a big garden where we can all go and plant our caravans in summer.
Exactly.
Yeah. Preferably with the pool. Chalets round. Nothing too much. Nice bar in the corner. Big fire.
And of course the barbecue.
Of course, yeah. Of course.
That's the other thing, is the number of barbecues. Martin and I tried calculating how many actual barbecues we'd had in France, and I think we gave up at around about 500. So, I think for me that's the one memory, that the family barbecues that have been an ongoing feature, and the kids all sat round feeding the faces as Martin and I cooked, often in the pouring rain.
Fantastic. Is there anything you'd like to read?
Just congratulations. I hope everything goes well, and we wish you all the happiness for the future.
Excellent.
Ditto.
Sorted, and what the circumstances relate to how it happened?
I think the Battle of the Boats began in 1983, is the first photographic record, which would be somewhere off the coast of Brittany. Exactly which beach, I can't remember. But I do remember being on a beach in France, wallowing in my little inflatable with my daughter, only to be drowned by a bucket full of water coming from one Marc, who was also in the boat and had snuck up on me and soaked me. And that began the Battle of the Boats. And it became an annual fixture. Every time we went to France, at some point, we would be in some water trying to drown each other. It ended about 7 years later in Argentat, when the boats finally got destroyed, sank without trace.
But that wasn't the end of the story, actually, because the
boats had been such a significant part of the holiday that they had to find a substitute. And so they decided that they would use airbeds instead. And Mark, being the born leader, decided that he was going to involve all the children who were present on the holiday. And so there is actually photographic record, I don't know if we can show this one, of Mark leading the rest of them astray, only to be upstaged by his brother, who was sneaking off in his rubber ring way ahead of him. So even then, Tim was ahead of his brother.
Fantastic. Happened when you were in France one year?
I'll let you tell that one.
Yeah, it was actually quite early on, and the children were all getting to the stage where they were entertaining themselves. They were finding lots of different ways of spending their holiday, and they decided that they were going to set up some entertainment for the adults. And so they spent the afternoon rehearsing, and they all allocated jobs to each other. And Mark decided he was going to be in charge of the tape recorder, and so that was the most prestigious role that he could give to the proceedings. And he thoroughly enjoyed pressing all the buttons, and everybody else was leaping around and entertaining, and we had a wonderful show. And I think that was the start of maybe his role as a DJ, but I don't know whether that ever took off or not.
Okay, cool. Right, a reoccurring thing kind of like comes up is Mark's fishing abilities. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Which fishing abilities? His ability to fish or his ability to find dead fish? Yes, the most notable occasion, of course, is when he turned up with JJ, I think it was, with a remarkable fish. The only problem was it was rather smelly, and there was some indications that perhaps it hadn't been quite live when he'd caught it. In fact, it was floating, belly up, but he tried conning us all that he'd tickled this trout. Unfortunately, it was inedible. We don't know what it died of, but it certainly didn't die of tickling.
Fantastic. So, Mark's role in all this and his relationship with yourselves and the other campers, or whatever.
I think basically the thing that I remember is how well the kids got on together, and the fact that they were a frightening gang. Creeping into a creperie, having a crepe and creeping out again.
Yes.
Going around towns, they were just always together. And I can't remember one significant bit of trouble between them.
No, they
Caused us trouble, but they didn't cause each other trouble.
It's fair, great. Okay, well, I don't know if you've met Sabrina or not, but yeah, okay. Should we talk about this thing about when you tease me endlessly about not being able to get your jokes?
Yeah, I mean...
Yourself and Mark.
Oh, yeah, obviously. Mark's little brother, but, you know, you're here now and obviously an accomplished adult, so it seems odd at the time, you know, odd to recount this at the time. But your only function as regards us was when you needed a third person. So if you were playing cricket and the ball kept going like into the other garden, we'll put some sort of fence. The ball would still keep going over the garden. What's Tim doing? You know, and then you'd get roped in. You know, would rope you in and persuade you that it was an integral part of it and actually really good fun to be the ball collector. Likewise, if anything needed carrying, it was always Tim. And you know what I mean. Whenever there was something needed, some donkey work needed doing. But both potentially good managers, I suppose. But the one I can remember from when we were little with Tim was spending an afternoon. afternoon with different strengths of fishing line that we'd got from our fishing gear, and getting it just the right height in the garden on Chance Ave. Just the right height so that when you cycled in from outside, from the drive outside into the back garden at speed, as you were going to later be persuaded to do, you wouldn't see this nylon line that was set at neck height, and it was going to knock you flying off the back of your bike. Another trap, I suppose. And, you know, I don't know what ruse we used, but it would be something, come on Tim, see how fast you can go. You know, see, Mark's gone and I bet you can go faster than him. So in you head, and we're all expecting this great sort of caterwauling an accident. And I can remember you just snapping this line and not even noticed you'd done it. And the two of us were gutted. Oh yeah, other than that, a lot of tree climbing as well. A lot of tree climbing. A couple of snowball fights. Once getting Ben Rudd, and having this ruse whereby I'm not even sure you weren't involved, Tim. Where we got Ben Rudd to chase us into the back of the garden during a snowstorm, and we had loads of snowballs set up, and we absolutely paggered him and stuffed it up his jumper and kicked it in his face, and off he went.
Fantastic. You mentioned that you neglected to wash.
Oh, well, I'd have got back from camp and still not washed. I don't know if Mark was any different. Certainly as we got older, I think Mark paid greater attention to his grooming than me.
Most definitely. Actually, just in reference to that, do you have any recollection of Mark with hair gel?
Yeah. Yeah, he always gelled his hair. I'm not sure if I did as well, but yeah, obviously those days are long since gone for me.
Fantastic. Okay. Primary school then. Any stories that kind of like stick out whereby Mark may have got into trouble, or you got him into trouble, or vice versa?
Well, a good one for primary school was Mark and Simon McDonald going to choir practice. Going to like the choir, what would be the audition, if you like, to get into the school choir. And I went first and I sang in a really soft voice because I was nervous because you had to sing on your own. And then Simon McDonald did the same. And then Mark, they asked him to sing, and Mark just belted it out. He just sang out loud properly. And I can remember thinking, being really envious of him, thinking, oh, I wish I'd had the confidence to do that. You know, good on him. And Mark never got in, and both Simon and I did. And it was only in later life that I realised, whilst he had a lot of gusto, he was tone deaf and he never could sing. And that was it. But I hadn't picked that at the time. I just thought, yeah, what a good lad going for it like that. He just got more courage than me. But that's, yeah.
Okay, no, that's cool. So back to the arm. Do you want to tell us about the tree incident?
Right. Well, we'd made a couple of traps, animal traps, in the woods nearby you. We'd looked for the most likely spots, dug a hole, and a lot of trapping was digging, and everyone likes to dig, so you have to get a place not near tree roots. We had a decent hole there. I think we enjoyed digging, and then you had some reason for the hole, and you covered the hole. We never put spikes in or anything like Viet Cong like that, but we would cover it, and that was the skill of it. You put some thin twigs on it, and there was chickens. This was in Thurn Lane. There was chickens. We'd try and get the chickens to go in. What we'd have done if one had gone in, it's just flown out. But anyway, we'd packed in trapping for the day, and we decided to build a tree house with a massive lump of hardboard. And I had this old saw. I think it was like from just a kid's kit. But anyway, we were sawing away, and my dad has teased Mark since about sawing the branch, just like in a cartoon. Sawing the branch he was on. And I was there and I sawed it as well from the same position. I was just luckier. And I never thought of it twice, so I don't think he was that daft for doing it. But anyway, so there we were sawing away, and he was up the tree, and I was at the bottom probably shouting encouragement, you know. And I can just remember just seeing it, and he was lying flat, and it just dropped from the height of this room. It was really high, 10 feet, just dropped flat, and him landing on top of the board, I think. And as a kid, you know something bad's happened. He got up and he just ran off. You know, he wasn't going to answer why he was running off. He just ran off straight away. And I didn't look at his arm at the time. But anyway, escorted him to hospital. I can't remember if this was before or after football incident. Probably after, because of the story to follow. We then go in, and quite why they had to take his kit off, I don't know. But that's what had to happen. And this nurse did it, and I can't remember whether at the time she was attractive or not. I still can't recall. But she was fondling round with a 14-year-old, 13-year-old with a 13-year-old's kegs. And I can remember Mark wearing this pair of briefs, and you know, Mark had a physiological reaction to these fondlings. And I don't know whether your dad, who was in the room, ever noticed. I don't think he did, because I can remember, you know, seeing some sort of some skillful but hurried shufflings from Mark to adjust his position so as to not, you know, give the game away and be sprung by this hapless nurse. But out she went, and I've certainly accused him of this since, and he's denied it. But you know, I saw what I saw, difficult as it was. But that's, you know, that's a true story. So that's, if there's any, you know, that if he's got any particular fondness for nurses, then that's where it springs from.
Egg incident. You went looking into a farm and trespassed on someone's farm and found some eggs. Wow. Well, tell us the story from the beginning.
Well,
if you recall.
I recall an egg incident whereby we went with a lad, and his surname was Vaughan. He was a black lad, Mark's mate, something Vaughan. Real good lad, you know, really good laugh. And we went and we were in this barn with all the hay just around the corner at Thurn Lane. And Mark said, "Oh, we can go there." So at the age you just follow, don't you? So we went there and we were messing around, and it must have been crawling with rats. But we found this egg, and it's just like this little prize. And after a while, I think we'd all at some point threatened to chuck it at the others, but no one really wanted to do it, to find this belter. Anyway, I think this lad Vaughan chucked one at Mark or me, and someone ended up splatting an egg on this lad. I think it was Vaughan head, and he had afro hair. And the egg, just like one of those pizzas you get with an egg in the middle, just sat on his afro hair. And he ran, I can remember him running out with a complete oak on his head. And that's what I can remember of eggs, yeah.
Fantastic, okay. Right then, now down to business. So, fishing. Okay, well, why do you think you went to France? And,
well, I remember, for no reason, my parents I didn't have any elder brothers or whatever, just when I was a little lad, I think about 8, what I wanted to do was fish. So for Christmas I got a fishing rod, and it just so happened, quite detached from that, Mark got one as well. And I was always that bit more keen on fishing than Mark, but I would drag him along and he was always keen to go along, not least because every time I promised our luck was going to change. I had a surefire plan, and this time we were going to catch lots of fish. And in France, you know, you're in the sun, you got the water. That's what you did, and yeah, we would always fish. But my favourite fishing recollection of ours was the one time we did catch some fish when we went fishing for trout at Driffield. We both caught a couple each, and I was really pleased because for once, alright, we were catching fish, it was brilliant. And we both crept up to the side of this thing near where there was a weir, and there was a fish, and it was massive, it was bigger than anyone else had caught. It was about 5 pounds like this, and we could see 2 of them over this grill, and we'd take turns in dropping the bait or whatever in front of it and letting them drift past, and every time they'd show a little bit of interest but they wouldn't do anything, and we'd take turns, and one would hide behind the wall and say, "Oh, it's near them now, it's near them now." And eventually, you know, after I don't know, maybe an hour or so's worth of this, day's getting on and we're having to go in a minute, and one of these monsters grabs the bait, and Mark's on it, and I'm frantically trying to sort of bark instructions, and Mark, just obviously having learned his fishing technique from Tom and Jerry and other such cartoons, just bent his back and just heaved the rod, just kept it as tight as he could. I was saying, just let a bit of line out, let a bit of line out. And anyway, the fish got off, and I was so disappointed because, you know, I loved fishing and this was a monster. And I didn't care who caught it so long as one of the two of us did. And Mark I felt sorry for him because he was just disappointed for me. I don't think he was that bothered, but he could see how disappointed I was. But it was a massive fish. Dull as Dick brought the story in the end, but it meant a lot to me.
Yeah, so apparently you did catch a fish when you were in France. Now, the story goes that you brought this fish back.
All right.
Do you want to tell us about that from
Right,
the start?
yeah. All right. So the dads went for a jog or something, and me, Mark, and Dan went along. We just started to plodge in this stream, and it was just like a fast-flowing, shallow stream, and absolutely no right to be there was this enormous carp that was obviously just freshly dead because it had rigor mortis in it. And so we picked it up, and I'm not sure whether it was Mark or I, or whether we saw it and sort of went over and bit by bit you touch it, expecting it to swim off, and it didn't. And we took it back and said we tickled it, and it was a monster. And I think everybody bought it until we came clean. That was good fun. I can also remember, I've got two other good stories from France. One, again, Mark showing balls, not literally, like in the hospital, but when we were gorged to town, there was these massive cliffs, and all the time before we'd gone there, Mark and Dan were saying, "Oh, it's brilliant, diving off the cliffs." And we'd jump in off the cliffs, and they were high. It was brilliant fun for little lads. And Mark, again, courage, just thought, "Oh, I'll give it a go, a dive," and he did. And I can still picture it in my mind. And whenever anyone says, "Oh, should we dive off it?" I say, "I wouldn't, because I've seen someone do this." And he dived, and because he was diving off, his legs went over his back, and I can remember him hitting the thing, and his legs just arching over the back. If he did it now, he'd he'd hurt himself more. But as a young lad, you're less bad. But again, I can remember him getting up and thinking, "Oh, crumbs, he ain't gonna get out." And the other one that he tried, I can't remember. Well, one of the two of us tried, was diving onto a dinghy. Now, in your mind's eye, you think the dinghy's just going to submerge. You know, you dive onto the dinghy and the dinghy will just submerge. But anyone considering doing it, what actually happens is the dinghy just stays put, and it is just like diving onto concrete. And you wind yourself. And I can remember one of the two of us getting stung with that. A lot of diving and a lot of swimming.
Yeah, that was the holidays, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just thinking about it as well. Right then, shall I start again then, Joe?
Right. I'm John James Burrell, which is rendered JJ. I know Mark. I've known Mark for years, having met him before we went to nursery school. Mums and dads were teachers, so they all knew each other, the teachers in Hull, and that was it. Mark and I were thick as thieves throughout until, like I've said before, till probably about 17, 18. Saw each other all the time. Absolutely bags of history and stories.
Superb. Well, why don't we start with St. Vincent's? Why don't you tell us about that? With specifics leading up to breaking his arm on several occasions, but we'll get to the last one a bit later.
Right. Well, at some point, and I can remember even as a little lad always enjoying it most, Mark and I would both play centre of defence, and obviously both of us wanted to play up front. I can remember him once playing against Wold, first game of the season, for Mr. Wise's team, scoring a hat-trick, which I was, I'll confess now, envious of, because I wasn't up front and centre forward, and for some reason, I even thought it was a bit unfair at the time. The next game he wasn't, he was in defence again after scoring 3 goals, and I think Mark was always a bit gutted by that as well. So we both played with St. Vincent's on Sunday mornings, 10:15. Sunday morning we'd turn up, and met all sorts of characters there. And I remember, and it was after one of the arm breaking incidents, but both went to hospital. And I can remember one of the nurses making pleasant chat and saying to your dad, so, you know, I don't know, what position do they play? And your dad saying in his dry way, half smirking, Mark is an expert exponent of the slide tackle. And I thought, well, you know, what's he going to say about me? Because I like slide tackling, and it rankled with me at the time. And he said, and Jay here, he's an exponent of the big kick. And I thought, man, I'm happy with that. I'm happy as being known as the big kicker. Even though I was a bit pushed out with the slide tackle. But that was the strength of Mark's game, in fairness. As he didn't make it as a goal scorer. And yeah, and I can remember the arm being broken. I can actually remember seeing it now. It was a fat bloke who played up front for Springhead FC at the time when you have variable puberty starts, and I certainly hadn't started. Mark may have been on the way there, and this kid had 2 years since been a man, and was just this massive creature. And I can remember him just sort of elbowing Mark out the way. And he'd been a handful for a year or two, this fat kid, and I just remember thinking at the time, this isn't fair. Anyway, Mark broke his arm, and we all went with him, and that was one of a number of times he broke his arm, and I can remember thinking, not again. Old Glass Arms has done his stuff. Go on, next question.
Right then, were there going specifics to anything that Mark did that was embarrassing to him, and also talk about the camping experience?
All right. Well, Mark and I, and it is rare to say, two friends, we never had a fallout, and I think that that is testimony to the fact that obviously it's on camera, but you go throughout life and you learn that not all people can be trusted and what have you, and some of your best friends will end up, not stabbing you in the back, but you know what I mean. Not living up to your expectations of them, and Mark always has, and that's the prelude to me saying it was like we were always competed with everything. Like I can remember us doing a chin-ups contest on these bars that are still there at the Baptist Church, Cottingham Road, and I can't remember who won between us, but it probably was even, like everything was. And Boys Brigade was just that. It was like who could get the most wickets, who could score the most goals. But best of all, we like being on the same side. If we were picked on the same side, we were happy. And what was best of all was when we won the Boys Brigade football contest, which seems like nothing now, but at the time it was the FA Cup for us. We talked about it all year, and it came to be the five-a-side. We won it one year. It was brilliant when we were the underdogs. We both recounted going in and them saying, some bloke being asked, I think it's going to be between Brough and 28th Hull, and us slyly thinking, we're going to win. And then the next year went as the favourites, and we lost in the final, and I can remember losing my rag. My karma character was, I can't. So I remember that.
So with the specifics to camping, then,
right.
The camping trips, tell us about that.
Camp. A lot of Mark and I's childhood together, up to about 12 I'd say, and I can't remember, it was instigated by me, I think we were both equally keen on it, was to do with trapping animals. We never succeeded in doing it, but whenever I think of it, it's some sort of trap that we read about in survival books. And we trapped that Mark and I set up on the first day of Boys Brigade camp, and I told my missus about this a week or so ago, and she just couldn't believe it, and I couldn't explain it. We set this deadfall trap up, so this massive rock on a place where the sheep was likely to put its head. What we were going to do with the sheep when it had been rendered unconscious, I don't know. Well, if the sheep was rendered unconscious now, I think I know what Mark would do to it. But that was one. We dug a latrine there. We dug this hole, really proud of it. Ended up being used for the lavatory. And I can remember also going and digging. I can't remember what I'd been asked to dig. I can't remember if Mark was stood with us, but I dug into the ground and water started flowing up. And I just shouted to everyone, "I've hit a spring!" I'd actually severed the water pipe to the camp, but it was good. And Boys Brigade was excellent. And I can remember also at Boys Brigade there was Trevor and Bobby Hook, were these twins. And I can remember us going to a swimming baths, and they were that bit older than us. And there was a keyhole into the changing rooms next to us, which was a girls' changing rooms. I know this like wouldn't happen now, but it did at the time. And I can remember this, like all the older lads hogging this view through the keyhole, and Mark and I both really keen to have a look, but I don't think either of us did. It was one of those disappointments.
So, in terms of going Genesis concert,
Oh well, Mark, I don't know whether he's upfront about it now, but was a massive fan of Genesis. He could name all their songs, all the band members. Actually, what happened was his dad won a competition, and we wanted to go and see Prince because apparently he had naked live dancing girls, but we had O-levels or GCSEs at the time, and after Prince there was another person we thought might be a bit racy. Can't remember who it was. So the only one we could go to was Genesis, and I knew 2 songs, and I don't think Mark knew any songs. But we went, and we arrived there. It was good, and we were just having a good time anyway. And there was these lorries giving out chalk ices, free. And you go up and they'd give you a chalk ice, and we thought, oh, spot on. And we must have spent an hour, most of the afternoon, completely ignoring the concert that was taking place, just getting different combinations of the clothing we were wearing, and going up and getting a chalk ice and the different guises. We were sick of them. And then we were absolutely gutted when we saw people just walking up and say, oh, can I have a box? And they'd say, yeah, there's a box, for all our efforts. Anyway, the concert starts, and most of other people must have been like us and not really think that much of Genesis. And it was like a medieval battle. The air was black with these chalk ices getting chucked at Roundhay Park from the top down to the bottom. And we were sort of pushing through as much as we could get into the thick of it to sort of start attacking back. And just as we got there, Mark picked up a chalk ice that had been lobbed, let it fly, and the security came absolutely herring in. And didn't get either of us, but I can remember being gutted. I mean, it didn't even chuck a chalk ice in anger. And another time where bit more wherewithal than me managed to get a chalk ice in, and I didn't.
oh, never mind, mate. Always next time, I guess. But
yeah. So Tim asked us, can you think of a time when he teased Jeannie or Joss or anyone? What I can remember is getting to the age of sort of about maybe 16, and Joss deciding that Mark was lovely, and sort of going, oh, Mark, oh, he's ever so good looking, he's ever so fit. Me saying, no, if you think it and you're wrong to, you're not to say it. Well, but he is. Shut up, he's not, he's not coming around here anymore. And obviously, subsequent to that, I've had to get used to the fact that she's going to say that about blokes, but I can remember at the time it sort of being, me not liking that. But having said that, Joss being Joss, she also thought that most of my other friends were nice as well. That's
Mark getting married.
Lucky girl. I think it's terrific, and it's good, and I've been married for a year and a bit, and I was talking about it today at rugby. Someone was saying, "Oh, I'm married, things aren't the same. There's no passion." La, 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 la. I won't go into the details. And he said, "You're married, Jay. What do you think?" And I'm not just saying it because she's here. I've never been happier, and I hope it's the same for Mark. And I think that's the way people are meant to be. You find the right person, and life's better shared with someone than on your own. And I hope Mark's found the right girl, and I wish them the best.
Is there anything that you'd like to say?
Other aspects of sort of, I don't know, competition if you like, and in the way our lives when in parallel was when he left to go to Beverley. He left Bricknell, which I'm sure, like I was, he was really enjoying. Knew all his mates and what have you, and had a great time. And it was lads who he'd grown up with. And he went to Beverley Grammar, a new school. And I think a lot of the reason why we were so close is that at the same time I went to Highlands, another new school which wasn't mates, and they're similar sort of school really. And you know, I think that it was nice to have someone going through the same sort of thing, or the same age, and that was good. And I can remember in exams we would always there was always a bit of competition in a way. No, not particularly. I always wanted the best for the other one, but and I was always really happy. We basically just got the same throughout until he got first.
Do you really miss Mark?
Yeah, I do. You get on with life, don't you? You get on with life, and you know, you have your friends and contemporaries, and life's full as it is. But I definitely miss the time to reminisce, and you're always going to miss a friend, a very good close friend, aren't you? And I have made the promise to make some effort to go and see him, and I ought to. He lives in a beautiful part of the world, and obviously for him to make the effort to see me, he's returning to where it's grim up north. But yeah, absolutely, I should. I should. No doubt about it. So yes, I do. Yeah, definitely.
That's cool, man. You have 2 minutes left. Anything else? Is there anything that you'd like to say to Mark?
I know you've probably saved yourself for this day, and I don't want you to be disappointed. These things need working on, and the two of you will enjoy a lovely relationship. Now, all you've got to do is communicate and listen to one another, and it won't be as harrowing as I'm sure you're dreading. It'll be a good evening. Remember to be safe.
And because you need to say a few extra words at the end, just tell us very quickly about Waterloo in 2 minutes.
When we used to play on the dinghies, when we used to dig massive holes in the beach, and Heather and Gail would come and fill them in, and we'd both get told off for telling them off and losing our temper with them. And we'd play on the dinghies, and Uncle Martin, would happily spend all afternoon tipping us from the dinghies and allowing these 8-year-old lads to shout, "The whale is coming, the whale, don't be capsized by the whale," which obviously at the time you don't realise that people might be sensitive about it. With hindsight, perhaps we might have said the ample porpoise.
That's fucking amazing. Right, okay, last thing. Okay, so when did you first meet Mark?
It was basically, I think it's roughly about 1986. Mark will have been probably 9-10 years of age, and attended a training session at Paris College where we were trying to put a boys team together. Obviously we did it over a period of 2 or 3 weeks, got children down. I think we had about 40, 45 people. Boys came down initially, and we had to select a squad of the ones who showed. It's difficult to do at that age, because basically all they want to do is chase a ball about and kick a ball. But you've got to find, among those 40 kids, you had to find 16 or 17 who who could be trained on and moulded into a footballer. And Mark showed a certain degree of natural ability at that time, and was selected to be part of the squad, the St Vincent squad. We started off, basically, it was a friend of mine, Jeff Baldwin, who wanted to put a team together. He already had the backing of St Vincent's club, and we had to put a team together, and that's how it started. And I always wanted to do it from scratch and see if we could build a decent football team.
So you're saying that St Vincent's didn't it? Sorry about the PE kids.
Well, the thing about Mark is he's very absent-minded, and we used to, most of the time, we'd take the kit off them and take it away to get washed, so we knew we got it back. But on the occasions we never, you can guarantee the only person who would come without his kit would be Mark Lyman. He'd either miss socks, shorts or shirt, and so we had to chase round before some matches to try and find him a shirt to fit or socks to fit. And of the squad, there were very few we used to forget. But Mark, you can guarantee, would forget his kit on quite a few occasions. And we never got angry with him, because he's not the sort of person you get angry with. But I don't know whether he's carried it on into his life, but he was always very absent-minded.
Mark?
Mark, it's been nice to meet Tim again, and I'd obviously sometime like to meet yourself if you're ever back over in England again. It was a pleasure to know you. I hope you have a long and happy married life, and all the best to you, and thanks very much.
That's great. The support of Manchester United and not his home team.
No, because I'm a Man United supporter myself, and have been since 1958, so it was no great shakes.
No, that's cool. So obviously you were there when Mark had his first break.
Yes, yeah.
Do you want to explain what happened?
I can't really remember what happened actually, but it was always a good footballer. The thing I worried about him, because we decided with him being one of the taller lads, to play him as a defender. And obviously, to be a defender, you have to, although you have football ability, you need a certain amount of aggression. And Mark, at the initial stages, lacked that aggression. And he used to get hurt on a regular basis because of that. I can't remember the actual incident about the break, such a long time ago. We had one or two knocks and bruises, obviously, as you do with any football team. And that age, children tend to cry as well, you know, and they want to come off rather than stay on. And that's basically what you've got to be careful with children.
Could you give us your name and kind of your relationship to Mark, basically?
Yeah, John Burnett. I've known Mark since I was 11. We met at Bradley Grammar School. First memories of Mark actually was on the school bus, coming on from school obviously. I was sat minding my own business, and this young kid, who turned out to be Mark, came and sat next to me with this homemade pea shooter that he'd made out of a pen. And he was quite annoying, he's blasting these bits of paper at everyone and slabbering everywhere. So I turned round to Mark and I explained that there were other seats on the bus for him to sit on. But he didn't really take the hint, and he ended up sitting next to me for the next 7 years.
Okay. Played exceptionally well.
Well, the one thing you got from Mark all the time was 100% honest performance. Not always the best performances, but usually his ability, football ability and brain got him out of certain situations. He could read the game very well at the back. You know, not the most aggressive, not particularly good in the air, but on the floor, quick and decisive. And not many games you can remember outstanding, but a level performance which you could rely on week in, week out. And that's basically why he was selected in the team as a centre-half, because he could hold things together. He was a bit of a new type of centre-half then, because he had pace and football ability. You know, his heading wasn't the best, and he'd probably admit that himself.
What's that, sorry?
His heading ability.
Heading ability.
Whether he was fighting to get his nose broken or that's I don't know. But he was always honest performer, gave 100%, and basically he was a dream of a lad to coach. You know, that's basically what it was.
Is there anything?
And he's such a nice lad as well. I mean, that's basically what we tried to do. We didn't like disrupt elements. No coach or anybody who runs a football team likes unruly elements. But you need a mixture of personalities to gel a team together. And Mark was the quiet, unspoken one on the pitch. I mean, he used to chat with the lads off the pitch like his friends and that. But it was quiet and got on with his job. And we liked nice lads, and we wanted to teach them to play football and enjoy the game. And that's basically, you know, I think we got 16 or 17 really good lads who wanted to learn, who wanted to play football in the right manner. And that's basically what the team was run for. And we managed to get as well a good set of parents who were supportive as well. And as long as they didn't interfere off the field, onto the pitch, you know, I was quite happy. And they didn't. They supported me and supported the kids. And I thought we had a very good 6 years. You know, we thoroughly enjoyed it. I know I did. And I still talk to some of the lads now who played, and they're still playing football at certain levels, and they enjoyed it as well. You know, and they never forget.
His deformed arm.
Yeah, it's his, I don't know which one it is, I think it's his left arm. And it's been broken in about 6 places. And yeah, I think he can touch his shoulder with his thumb. Very deformed, not as deformed as his toes. His toes are about half the length of his feet. So, yeah, he's quite odd.
Righty-ho. Okay, so wasn't Mark getting married?
I'm very pleased for him actually. He's seemed very happy since he's met Severine. She's a very nice girl. I'd like to wish them all the best for the wedding day and for the future.
Want to say something to Mark, or?
Yes, have a good day, Mark. And as I just said, All the best for you and Severine today and in the future. Have a good one.
Marc's personality kind of attributes.
Personality? I think dozy probably sums him up the best. At school he was pretty much like a model pupil really. Straight A's at GCSE I think, straight A's at A-level, head boy. But at the same time as being very academic, he was always very dozy. In fact we used to call him Dozy Lyman, which he didn't like very much.
So if this is the case, then how do you think he's...
Dublin, yeah. Another example of Marc's forgetfulness. It was my stag do last year actually. And us lot got a flight from England to Dublin, but Marc had to come from Brussels. So he'd organised his own flight, which he'd somehow managed to do himself. And we all arrived at Dublin Airport, waited for Marc, who was about 3/4 an hour late I think, and then stood waiting for about another hour while his bag came off the carousel. A few of us starting to get a bit, well, it was valuable drinking time being wasted by then. So one of us went to check which carousel he should have been at and found out that he'd been stood at the wrong one for about an hour. Typical Marc.
Right then, okay, so... okay.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So yeah, I was sat in the common room and Marc and was sat on the floor with there was some girls around, and I think he was trying to make a pass at one of them. It was either that or he was trying to make a pass at me, because next thing I knew I had this hand going up my leg up to about my knee, and then suddenly I froze, and then I think he realised that when he got to my hairy calf that he'd done something wrong. But that was his excuse. I think he was after my legs really.
It's, what do you think about Marc playing hockey?
Marc playing hockey? He's kept that quiet from me. I didn't know he did. But yeah, judging by his football, it's probably best if he did play hockey.
Okay. So, what is your opinion of hockey? Do you think it's a girls' sport?
Not just for girls, I'd say probably some homosexuals play as well.
That's great.
Oh yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think she was always very pleased to have us round really. The most embarrassing time, your mum probably remembers it, I think we'd been out clubbing in Hull I think. Gone back to sleep at your house. And there was a few of us, a bit worse for wear. And above the mantelpiece there was some big like French horns and some bells. And I was absolutely, we're all out of our faces. And your mum walked in, and I think all I had was my boxer shorts on. I had this big horn and these two bells like that. And this is after I'd thrown up in the garden. So I don't think she liked me that night.
Right, okay.
Yeah, he has. I don't know if you've got the same laugh, but he has got a ridiculously high-pitched laugh. Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well, pretty infectious.
Can you think of like any particular moment where it, came about, where it kind of like had the most impact?
Probably on a lads' holiday in Ibiza. We went for a week, and I think 4 of the days Marc had food poisoning anyway, so he was in the apartment being sick. But just when he got himself okay again, we were in a bar playing drinking games, and a combination of Marc drinking too much and laughing too hard, he actually threw up all over the pub, which didn't go down too well with the girls on the table next to us.
School. So with football, tell us about his involvement with football.
Yeah, that's probably where I got to know Marc best off. We used to play in the school team together. Me and him were centre backs, and it used to work pretty well. Apart from, I could guarantee nearly every game he'd kick it straight in my face, and somehow hit this nose. I don't know how he hit that nose, but he hit it every game.
So I hear your nose is would you consider your nose like to be particularly associated with Marc?
But yeah, I'd say it was quite a petite nose until we used to play football regularly, and he's responsible for this hooter I have now. I haven't a clue. I don't know. He must get a lot of help from Severine, I think, organising his day-to-day things. Just to get through life. Judging by what he was like at school. Because he could never ever remember his PE kit or anything. And considering he loved PE, his mother used to have to bring it around every Friday for football practice because he'd never remember.
Were you surprised or?
Well, I mean, it came as when you came to see me, obviously, when you rang the wife yesterday, the bolt out of the blue. You know, we was only talking, funnily enough, about we've had the photographs out last week. We're digging some more photographs out for another reunion party sort of thing with some friends of ours, and I found the old books, and we was only talking about one or two of the football. I mean, I went to see Chris Buckle play last week. He plays for my son's team, you know, in the Humber Premier League. Chris Buckle, I mean, and Marc will know him real well, and we was talking about different players, you know, John Garland, this, what, and the other, Ian Blake, Ian Moss, you know, Richard Blake, Ian Moss, who played at the same time as Marc did, so Marc will know all those names. I've got a photograph here which you can take with you.
Oh, lovely.
The original St Vincent's photograph when we were sponsored by the Cosa Nostra. We were at the Mafia. We were sponsored by a pizza place called Cosa Nostra, which caused a bit of a stir at the time. But you can take that gladly. That will probably bring back some memories to mind.
Okay.
So here he's getting married, and he's going to live in Belgium and get married.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm thoroughly pleased for the lad. I hope he has a long, happy married life. Okay. And if he's turned out, if I'm not just saying he's turned out a nice lad, I knew he always would do, and he's done well for himself, and that's through his own dedication and brains, really. And I'm real pleased for him.
Is there anything you would like to say directly?
Initially, even though he showed ability, I didn't think he had enough interest, but I think what he had was more outside interest other than football. He thoroughly enjoyed his football, but he also had a lot of outside. He was very quiet at the time. He couldn't get a lot out of him. You know, he used to chatter with the kids, but when you asked him a question directly about football, you know, he seemed to be reluctant to get involved in discussing it, even though he enjoyed playing. I think basically he just enjoyed playing football and didn't want to know the deeper, you know, discussions about the football life, really.
Yeah.
And obviously, as he progressed, all I was happy about that, he enjoyed his football. And our job was to try and teach him to play football in the right manner, in the right way, and hopefully become successful as well. That was the initial idea.
Were you horrified to learn that? Right then, tell me a little bit about Marc. When was he born?
Okay, Marc was born on the 6th of October 1975. He was 2 weeks late. He was always a lazy boy. And when he was born, his daddy was at home fast asleep.
Okay.
Which was a bit naughty. I had to do it all myself.
So Dad wasn't around?
So Dad wasn't around when Marc was born, and I actually telephoned him to tell him that he got a son. And that he was 8 pounds 6 ounces when he was born at 18 minutes past 3 on the Monday morning.
Mm-hmm. Okay, was it, tell me, how do you feel about Marc getting married?
We are absolutely thrilled to bits. We love Severine dearly. He couldn't have chosen anybody better. And she's the daughter I've never had.
His 18th birthday, where did he sleep?
Marc and his friends, after they'd been out for an evening's entertainment, they always used to come back here because our house was a cheaper taxi fare. So it was quite common for me to wake up in the morning and find 8-10 people in sleeping bags on the lounge floor. But on his 18th birthday it was slightly different because I knew full well that he was going to go into Beverley and he was going to get so drunk. And so I said to him, half joking, half meaning it, when you've finished in Beverley, if you're drunk, I don't want you in the house throwing up everywhere.
so you and your friends can sleep in the garage. And I didn't really mean it, but obviously Mark took this on board, because when we got up the next morning, came downstairs half expecting to see all these people asleep, and there was nobody there. So went to the garage, and there was about 8 people all asleep in a circle with a bucket in the middle. And there they'd spent the night, using the bucket when and if necessary to throw up in.
Did you say that Mark was accident prone?
Perhaps you should ask Mark that one. Because Mark and I have got a little saying going. And if anybody was to ask Mark, what did I always say to him when he went out to play football? Because football has always been a love of his. And unfortunately, he tends to break bones, has a tendency to break bones. And so every time he went out to play football, I would say to him, Mark, if it's your arm or the goal, please let the goal in. And to this day, we always remember this. And it's something that stuck with us.
So how many times has he broken his arm?
I think it's 3. Twice playing football, and once playing with his friend JJ when they were playing in the spinney across the road, and they were climbing the tree, and of course Mark had to fall out, and JJ came running over to say that Mark had hurt himself and he'd broken his arm for the 3rd time. So I think it was twice football and once falling out of a tree.
Excellent. French girls, do you want to tell us a bit more about
Ah yes, he went on a holiday once to France to stay with some friends of Nana and Grandpa Willis. And they, Yvette and George had a little granddaughter called Laurence. Okay. And I have a lovely little photograph of Mark and Laurence sitting in a chair in Yvette's garden with their arms around each other, giving each other a really sloppy kiss. And that was his first kiss, and it was a French girl. So...
history's kind of repeating
yes,
itself.
it is. History's repeating itself.
Yeah.
When Tim arrived, Mark was about 4 years old. So he'd been used to being on his own. And I arrived home from the hospital with Tim, yourself, and I'd gone into the kitchen to make something. Nana and Grandpa had arrived to come and see you. And I turned round, and you, Mark, had got you by your feet and was bouncing your head up and down on the floor. So I take it from that really Mark was a little bit jealous of having a new brother, because he'd been the centre of attention.
Okay, well, emphasise on that point, yeah. Is there anything you like in relation to Mark? Is he a nice baby? Is he happy?
Matisse is... I suppose I'm biased, but I think Matisse looks very much like Mark. Got his blue eyes, hasn't he? Got his really big saucer blue eyes. I think he's more placid than Mark was.
Yeah.
I think he's more well balanced. I don't know. But he's absolutely gorgeous. It was a very easy birth, and he was a bonny baby. He had to be, didn't he? Because he belonged to me and your dad, and he was wonderful. He was a really placid little boy.
Excellent. Okay, so did Mark welcome the arrival of Tim? Undertake them when his A-levels were over?
I don't think I'm ever going to forgive Mark for this.
Yeah.
Because when he finished his A-levels, he had 3 months to spare before he went off to university. And he's always wanted a pond in the garden. In fact, when he was younger with his friends, they used to come into the back garden and dig holes and line it with plastic and try and fill it with water. And of course it never worked. So when he finished school and was waiting to go for university, he decided that he was going to build a pond or dig a pond. So he and Tim, yourself, started digging, and this pond got bigger and bigger and bigger. And of course, once it was finished and he'd stocked it with fish, it looked super. But then you had to start to clean it out, to feed the fish, to treat the fish, to clean the filters, to drain the pumps. It's not just a simple job. And after the 3 months of Mark and Tim finishing this pond, off he went to university, and the little sod has never been home since. So who's got to do this pond? Who has to clean it, finish it, sort it, and everything else? Muggins here. And it drives me mad. Mark, hurry up and get a house, a big house with a big garden, and I'm going to ship the pond out to you.
So I hear.
I should have rubbed his nose in it, shouldn't I? But I didn't, no. I didn't rub his nose in it. I just made sure that I give him a lot of attention. Luckily, you were very quiet, so you didn't need much attention.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Right then, so that Mark ended up with French girl.
I always expected Mark to go for somebody highly intelligent and different. And certainly with Severine, she's a really super girl. I love her dearly. And of course they've produced Matisse, who is absolutely gorgeous.
Tell us a bit more about Matisse then.
True.
So Mark had a good relationship with Humphrey when he was a baby. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah. There's always one toy or one bear or there's always one thing that a child likes more than another. And with Mark, it was a little bear called Humphrey. Now, Humphrey wasn't even a present from anybody. He was a free gift from a double glazing company when we bought some double glazing when we lived at Chamberlain's Avenue. And it's a little white bear, and it had a little badge on the front that said EYG, East Yorkshire Glazing. And this bear went everywhere with Mark. It went to university with him, it went on school trips with him, it went off to Leuven when he went off to Leuven with him. And now it's in Matisse's cot, washed, clean, spruced up, and it's been passed on to his number one son.
How do you think Humphrey...
I think it was Severine at first that was second best, you know, because Humphrey's always been first in Mark's life. But eventually, of course, Humphrey did get relegated to the windowsill because Severine really, really took over and became Mark's number one fan and number one partner. But Humphrey's quite happy now because he sleeps in Matisse's cot.
So you don't think he gets jealous?
Oh no, I don't think so. It's a new chapter in his life.
Tell me about tree trunks.
when my number 2 son was born, he was, is this what we're talking about? Yeah, when our number 2 son was born, he was the most gorgeous little boy, and he was a rather large baby. And he laid in his cot in the nursing home, and Nana and Grandpa arrived to come and see Tim for the first time. And Mark was absolutely fascinated by his new baby brother in this cot. He couldn't really understand what was going on. But he knew one thing for sure. And when Nana and Grandpa Willis came walking up the ward to meet their second grandson, Mark ran down the ward. And it wasn't, Nana and Grandpa, come and see Timothy, come and see Timothy, I've got my new baby brother. It was, come and see Timothy, he's got tree trunks. And by tree trunks, he meant that Tim, bless him, had the most enormous legs and thighs. And so it wasn't come and look at my pretty little baby brother, it was come and look at my tree trunks. And from that day to this, that's how he's referred to him.
Excellent. So, indicated that he was jealous of me?
Yes, he did, because we didn't notice at first, but I caught him one day with his trousers round his ankles in the corner of the hallway, making patterns with his wee-wee on the wall. And on a subsequent day went up into his bedroom to find that the carpet was soaking wet, and that he'd obviously been doing this for quite some time. So he was a little bit jealous of having a new baby brother.
So what did you do to Keel?
So have you had part of that before?
Yeah, no, well, I mean, we can go on that if you want. Okay, so...
Well, no, if someone else has said it, we'll leave
No,
it.
no one else has said it. In
Oh,
fact, you know, I'm amazed, actually, you're bringing up points that no one else has. Okay, so, right, so Keel, did you like Keel when you went to visit him?
Yes, I say then eventually he got the necessary A-levels that made him, what's the word? Accept his place at Keele University, which he did these 4 years, and came out with a first-class honours degree, which made us very, very proud of him. And from then on he went to Leuven.
What did he do in between university years? Do you have any examples?
Yes, I would, because he was a bit clumsy, and that led to mishaps. Let me think of the words. But nothing serious. Yes, broke a few broken bones, but nothing too serious.
Okay. Mark, what was he like when he was a baby?
A crybaby. Far I can remember, he was a crybaby. He cried a lot in the early stages. But most of the time he was a happy little soul with his big blue eyes. I think what's the little...
So why did he... So do you think Mark had a hard time when he got to Dubai because drink is illegal over there?
Well, he didn't say much about Dubai, only that it was a dry country. But he did learn the seriousness of drinking, and I think he taught him a lesson. But, what?
Universities.
Oh, yes, in his gap year, he went round the world and had a whale of a time. I never thought he'd come back in one piece, but he did.
Okay. Were you happy? So?
Thrilled. First grandson. Yes. Beautiful baby. And he's evened things up. One of each. I was going to say colour then, but I meant sexes. But no, can't think of much else at that stage. No.
No. So what was he like when he was a child? Then
What was he like as a child?
Precocious, sad.
Oh, happy child. Of course, then his young brother arrived, didn't he?
So how did you feel when his
Oh,
brother
well, he thought that was lovely, because the first thing he said was, "Look at those oak trees." Is that okay?
So you went to Hong Kong. What did you buy as while you were out there?
Yes, on each holiday I went on, I used to try and bring them something back that was appropriate. And I went to Hong Kong and brought him back these caps with a star on, which is a symbol of the Red Star, I think. But they were thrilled with it because it was unusual. No one else had one. Can't really, and always a T-shirt of the country. And I think when I came back, they were, instead of being pleased to see me, they wondered what had brought them back.
So Mark, on his travels around America, did he happen to go to Las Vegas?
No. What reason would he have for going to Las Vegas? He isn't a gambler. He's a nice boy.
We went on holiday. The Lyman family went on holiday and took you with you. I heard that they convinced Mark that they were going to London. Do you want to tell them about what happened?
Mm-hmm. One of the holidays with the Lemgo Twinning Association, it was their 700th anniversary, and we'll go on our way, as Mark thought, on our way to London. Nothing to do with Lemgo, but we're on our way to London, so he thought. But he couldn't understand why we were going towards the docks, and we conned him into thinking we'd left the gas bottle. We hadn't got one, so we were going to collect one. And it was quite a while before he tumbled to the fact that he'd been conned. We were going across the sea on the ship's North Sea ferries and to Lemgo celebrations. And we all had a whale of a time in the caravan on this camping site. And they did us proud. We had a marvellous time.
Fantastic. What about is that right?
Yes, he went to Los Angeles and saw all the usual sights. Sunset Boulevard, the Gaumont Chinese Theatre, the Hollywood Bowl, Beverly Hills, all the usual tourist spots.
So you think you had a really nice time there, yeah?
Yes, very nice, yes. Mm-hmm.
Los Angeles is a nice city, is it?
It's very...
So how do you feel about Mark and Severine getting married?
Oh, I'm thrilled. She's a lovely girl, and I'm sure they'll be very happy. I've got a beautiful baby. He's a gorgeous.
Do you want to say something to Mark? To Mark? Yeah.
To him?
Yeah.
You treat him right, or you have me to answer to.
So I hear that you had a nice time in New Zealand.
Yes, he did. He thoroughly enjoyed that. He spent a lot of time with the locals, and he even tried his hand at sheep shearing.
Excellent. In America, did he stop in New York?
Yes, he had a very nice time in New York. Very educational. He spent a lot of time walking through Central Park, admiring all the flowers and the trees. Could name them all, I'm sure.
Really? Oh, fantastic.
Oh yes, when he was very small, when he was learning to talk, he used to sit between my legs and play with my feet, which he liked doing. And he always said the smells of spaghetti, which I could never understand because I never ate spaghetti. But that was one of his little quirks.
So you used to go on quite a lot of holidays when we were young. You used to always bring us back when he attained that position.
Yes, when he was at Beverley Grammar School, he became head boy. I'm very proud because he had to make the speech at the Beverley Minster, And we swelled with pride as we listened to him, and he's gone from strength to strength in his career.
That's great. How did he feel about his brother, really?
Oh, he loved him, but eventually, you see, he was the boss, and so he got a bit of hammering to his younger brother.
Go on.
See, I dry up, don't I? But basically, they got on well, and still do.
So tell me about his Sunday football. Did you hear much about that?
Sunday.
Sunday football.
Oh, yes, he played for several teams throughout his younger days. The one that comes to mind was St Vincent's.
How did he get on?
He's a very keen Hull City supporter. He loved the Tigers and still does.
Do you like the Tigers? Do you like the Tigers? Do you support the Tigers?
In fact, he's got me to knit Matisse a football jersey in the Tigers' colours.
You knitted him something, didn't you, for Christmas, Matisse, didn't you?
Yeah, this Tigers jumper.
Was it Tigers jumper? Was it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fantastic. What else can we talk about? Mark in the army.
Mark, as he grew up, as my husband, he was really an army man, and he loved the army. And as Mark grew up, he wanted to be an army cadet, and which eventually he did become an army cadet boy, and which he really enjoyed. And of course, Grandpa, I won't say, I'm going to cut this out of it, so I won't say anything about.
That's fine.
Not
Carry
like
on,
him.
that's fine.
Which Grandpa was very, very proud, and he went through his army cadets training. And then it was funny really because
Do you want to tell us about the incident with the rations? The rations, and that you saw Grandpa on TV.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Okay. How do you feel about Mark and Severine getting married?
Mark and Severine, I couldn't be happier.
Okay, give it a minute. Ready?
He couldn't have picked.
Hang on, wait. Go.
He couldn't have picked a nicer girl. She's lovely. My only regret is that
Oh, no, it's okay. Don't go down that line.
that Grandpa isn't here to see them.
That's okay.
Like Lynn and Martin, and we're all very, very happy for them, and we certainly hope that everything goes according to plan. And how lovely it is. Look at Matisse, is lovely. Couldn't be happier for them all.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, mate.
Don't worry about it. Do you want to say something to Mark through the camera?
Is this at the day? Yes. Mark, what can one say? Only that I'm more than happy for both you and Severine, and wish you all the happiness in the world. Love you both. Now, yes, this was another episode with Mark. We had some French friends, and Fred and myself took Mark over to Dieppe to see these friends, and we were all laughing and joking as one does. And I turned round, and before this, obviously there was, and my friends had got this daughter, same age as Mark, and they got on very well together. And I turned round and looked at them, and there they were, sitting on the floor with their arms around each other, hugging and kissing one another. And as I think, Severine, see, you're not the first French girl for him to have a little affair with. Not a little affair, you're not the first French girl.
So
You'll cut that out.
That's fine. So you're not really surprised then that Mark and...
No, it's funny, yes, it's funny because he was really very fond. Lawrence, her name was, and she was a very nice girl. Of course, that episode went, and then of course you meet Severine, so it was nice, really.
You saw Grandpa on TV.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. As I say, Fred was an army man, and it was funny when they used to come down, whatever there was on the television, if it was anything to do with the army, Mark always used to be sitting on Grandpa's knee, and if any man that came on, that was Grandpa, and according to Mark, Grandpa won the war. He said, well, I had many a smile over that. And there was one time we were watching a film, and they were having the food out of the mess tins, and Mark says, have you got those at Grandpa? And of course Grandpa says, oh yes, I had mess tins. So obviously following that, the following Christmas, we went and bought some mess tins. Unbeknown to Mark, of course, they were bought from his shop. He thought they were Grandpa's. Then at Christmas, on the Boxing Day, it was bitterly cold and snowing, and he says, Grandpa, we've got to go out on manoeuvres like you used to do when you were in the army. And I looked at Grandpa, I could have killed him, but anyway, we had to get our clothes on, and it was snowing and whatnot, and we went out, and we found some grass and found a hill, and we had to go with the mess tins, which of course beforehand Lynn had filled with food. So there we were, absolutely perishing cold, eating the food, and he said, is this like you used to do, Grandpa? Are we doing like you used to do when you were in the war? And with that, obviously, we came home. Everybody was all very happy. Very happy occasion.
Excellent.
Oh, yes. Do you want to go into his tree trunks and whatnot?
Yeah.
Yes, there again we had a phone call. It was in the night. And Fred, that's my husband, he got the car out and we went rushing down. And when we got there, Mark came running to the door, not saying, hello, Nana, hello, Grandpa. He says, Nana, Grandpa, quick, come and have a look, come and have a look. Timothy has been born, which we knew that was what your name was going to be. And he says, but he's not got legs, he's got tree trunks, which of course we all sort of laughed at. That was the arrival of Timothy, as I know him as Myth.
So